Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I'm also the founder of Embody Me program and the creator of 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. You may also find me on the yoga mat leading yoga sessions and also running retreats here in Australia and internationally. Here on the podcast, I bring you some pretty incredible guests. We talk all things self-belief, body acceptance, personal development, outdated beauty standards, and we also call BS on the toxic diet culture, accepting the beautiful bodies we were born into, letting go of all the beliefs, and raising our self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a little solo episode, a little Life According to Emma moment. I'm so glad you're here. Enjoy. Welcome to this week's episode of Celebrate a Sister. This week I'm joined by Anna Hastie. Anna is a business mindset coach and a sound healer. Anna's work stems from a deep desire to make a difference in the world. Her own journey building her successful natural therapy and energy healing business taught her that mastering her mindset was crucial. Anna combines her lived experience, her knowledge of NLP, mindset tools, spirituality, and healing. She also has a gift with sound baths to help women remove limiting beliefs and replace them with confidence and clarity so they can go ahead and achieve their dreams. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emma. It's such a pleasure to be on your show.
Oh, delighted. It's so wonderful. So Anna right now is on the other side of the country. She's all the way over in the gorgeous Broome area and I'm on the Gold Coast. So isn't it wonderful that we can connect and have a conversation and talk about
I know, right?
Spirituality. It's great. Connection is good.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, I just love how podcasts can now really, really bring people together no matter where they are in the world. And yeah, I don't know if your listeners are doing it right now, but you think of the map of Australia and you think of where like the Gold Coast is and then where Broome is, you couldn't be like further away from each other, So it's, I love the power of the internet, the power of Zoom, the power of podcasting and how it like brings everybody together.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I wanted, reading your bio, and we just discussed off air, I had a yoga studio. You also have done a 300-hour yoga teacher certificate, and as well as now your passion is around sound healing combined with your coaching. So I wanted to talk to you today about integrating spirituality and the practices to enhance a business and personal life that you love. So I want to ask straight up, what's spirituality to you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think everybody's probably going to have a similar answer to the fact that it's something, spirituality for me means something that's bigger and higher than myself. And it may not be something that we can tangibly see or hold, but we have that deep sense or knowing. And that's what I truly believe there is. And I also feel like spirituality for me as well is the expression of my spirit. So that's where my like creativity shines through, or things that I have that I love doing. That's part of my enjoyment. That's pretty much how I see spirituality. I mean, along with that, there's always, everybody has their own gifts and talents in terms of connection to spirituality. So for me, sometimes I'm a bit more like clairvoyant or visual. Like I often see just flashes of things come through. But overall, it's just that deep sense of knowing, like that intuitive sort of knowing that comes through more often than not for me.
Yes. And I feel in business and in life, or particularly when you're providing that creativity like sound healing or teaching yoga or coaching, you really lean into your own belief around your having, like you say, something greater than yourself that is hard to kind of explain and tangible, but leaning into that like your intuition or your clairvoyant, your flash of just knowingness or feeling to guide you through and others through. So I agree. I would describe my spirituality similar to that. And I think learning about yoga and the philosophy It's one thing, and separating. I remember realizing that philosophy was very different to spirituality, where I think when I first started my yoga practice, I kind of had them entwined, but then realizing that they were different, and it was more of a feeling as opposed to a written how it's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we can all relate to something, like whether we say universe, God, higher intelligence, all that there is. Maybe we connect to Buddha or some other, I guess you could say, figurehead or deity. But at the end of the day, I feel like spirituality is that personal understanding and knowing, and that's the truth within who we are as human beings. And like you said, like there's yoga philosophy, just as like there is the Bible, and they're kind of like scriptures or sort of things for guidance that can make us good people, can help us be good people. But at the end of the day, yeah, I feel that, like you said, spirituality is coming back to that deep sense of knowingness within yourself, and that connection to something that is higher than and bigger and greater than what you are. But like, you know, as you said as well, we can't like necessarily like, I don't know, just pull it off of a bookshelf and say, here's my spirituality.
Yeah. Because it doesn't have a name like religion does per se. It's more just that knowing. And I love the combination of taking a little, like you just said, then even, you know, the yoga philosophy or whether it be even the Bible or whatever figurehead we give it, and pulling all the bits that resonate and feel true to you. It doesn't have to be one label, like taking the best that feels in alignment with who you are. That is,
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that's something that's more and more prominent now when people talk about spirituality. It's that realization of coming back to yourself and knowing and doing and feeling and sensing what is right for you, rather than having that feeling or that push to believe what your neighbor thinks or do what your colleague at work does, or, you know, other family members and things like that. Like I feel like nowadays we have so much more awareness, so much more insight, so much freedom in the conversations that we have around with people about spirituality, that it's kind of like choosing what's right for you and knowing that feels right. It's like, you know, going to the shops and putting an item of clothing on and going, yeah, this jumper looks good on me, it feels good on me. But you might put those jeans on that somebody else bought and you're like, that does not fit my figure, you know? So
yes. Yeah. It is like choose your own adventure.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. And and like we were talking off air, even though I did, you know, my yoga teacher training, and for a while I was combining yoga with sound bath healing, the actual realization for me was that, well, teaching yoga, I should say, isn't my jam. It isn't what I'm here to do in the world. Sound bath is. I feel more dedicated and more inspired to do practice and be the best sound bath healer I can. You know, I'm always channeling different meditations and things like that. But it's not to say that actual teacher training went to waste. Like, that still had a big impact on my life. It was still at a significant time in my life. I did it during COVID. It was a bit of a crazy time for us all, but it was really, 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 really important. And yeah, there was lots of growth and lots of understanding. And I'm sure it will benefit me in years to come, I know. So
yeah. There is no path that we go down a waste. It always leads us to or just the knowledge that we gain and finding our own ways all helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I did want to talk about manifesting, because I love a little story that you told in your podcast that I found was really, really interesting. And it was manifesting a life and a business you love. And what steps, if, you know, for the listeners who are thinking about perhaps something they want to manifest or bring into their life to make real, what steps can they take to achieve this? Because I know that you have a beautiful little framework and a step that has happened in your own life. And I only know this one story, but that's probably happened many times, Anna. But do you want to talk through and tell that story of that manifestation, how it came real in your life, and what the steps are? So if anyone's listening, they could potentially think about something that they're wanting to bring into their own life and the path to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I might start with the actual steps of manifestation and then lead into my story, if that's okay for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I find that through my experience of learning about manifestation, we're most likely familiar with the ask, believe, receive, that nice little 3-step process that we were all sort of inspired by through Rhonda Byrne from The Secret. However, there's a little bit more that goes in on that. And this is what I love, because this is about coming back to you and working through your own limiting beliefs that you may have around your manifestation, as well as looking at how you're taking action alongside one of the universal laws, which is the law of action, which is the partner to law of attraction. So the first step, that I think there's about 8 steps. So if I don't count all 8, know that I'm just going through what I know, right? So the first one is to basically decide, define, and declare. What do you want? What do you want to bring into your life? What is it that is on your heart? What is it, your dream, your desire, your intention, your goal? What is it? What is it that you want? So decide that, define it, and declare it. Then check in on yourself and that vision and ask yourself, are there any limiting beliefs surrounding that idea or that thing that you want? Because that is going to be one of the points that's going to keep you stuck from moving forwards and manifesting this thing. So if, for example, it's to let's say for some of your listeners, it's to manifest your dream house, right? And it's in this really glorious street where it's kind of like $1 million mile, that's where the houses are in the millions. They're all grand and beautiful and they're luxurious, whatever it is. Let's just say we're going there with the house. But where you currently live right now is in a suburb that may be on the other side of wherever, and it's like it's not the poorest suburb, but it's not the richest one. It's just kind of mediocre. It's kind of where maybe the kind of suburb that you grew up in, but you really aspire to living in these beautiful houses because that for you is what you want. You just love this idea of having this beautiful house, and that's fine, right? But if you have a limiting belief somewhere in there that says you are not worthy enough, like the crux of it down the bottom in there, deep in there, is that you're not worthy of having that kind of house, or that people may shame you in a way for having it, that kind of house, or you've got sort of some sort of money mindset block or limiting belief about owning a house like that, that belief is going to sit well underneath the surface and is going to sort of continue sabotaging, if we want to say, your manifestation from coming forwards, because somewhere in there you don't believe you're worthy enough to have that beautiful house, right? Mm-hmm. So if there is a limiting belief, you need to identify it, and then you got to clear it. Now, this is where you do your mindset work. So whatever that may be, however that may be, whether it's working with someone like Emma or another mindset coach, it's clearing the limiting belief, right? Then you go back and you check in on that vision. Does that still feel right for you? Do you still actually want that beautiful $1 million home on the beachfront with, the cafes nearby and everything, all that kind of stuff? Or does it feel like you've cleared something where your intentions are actually, and your desires are something else? Maybe it's like to have a beautiful home like that, but you actually really want to live in the country and have a beautiful house like that, and property and acreage or something, whatever it is, right? Maybe you don't even want that house. You want to buy a boat, okay? Right? You want to change your life. But either way, you check in on that vision again. Does that still feel right for me? Or is there still something that's hidden in the surface that may be holding me back? So then from there, so you've decided what you want, you've identified your limiting beliefs, you've cleared them, you've assessed the whole situation, you're good to go. You've got to take the action. You've got to take the action, the inspired action, and you've got to release the how. How on earth is this beautiful $1 million home going to land in my lap when perhaps at this moment in time, the deposit for such a house you have is small? But you just have to release that. You have to release the how, because you and the universe are co-creators. You and the universe are here to work together to bring this into reality. And this is where you take action. Now, this inspired action might be getting your finances all sorted, going to speak a financial advisor. It may be like this aha idea of just driving up and down the street every day and just picturing yourself like going to one of the cafes, or even going to one of the cafes and sitting there going, oh, it's so amazing that I live here. Doing anything that speaks to your subconscious mind, which is a key part of manifestation, because your subconscious mind is the part of your mind that holds all your beliefs, desires, habits, behaviors, everything. It's programmable. You just work with your subconscious mind, is what I'm saying in a nutshell, by taking action that influences the process and the manifestation and working with the universe that this is something that you want, right? So you tune in and you listen to those divine insights that come through, and being able to discern between what is your heart, that deep sense of knowing. And we know that, don't we? We know what intuitive messages feel like for us. Like sometimes it's that you just tune into your heart and you go, yes, that feels right. Or maybe it's into the gut, or maybe it's something else that makes you go, yeah, this is the right thing for me, versus getting stuck in your head and an ego moment. So a head is where we have that busyness in the mind, the fluctuations of thinking, stories, tells us all the things, whatever, right? So, tuning into those moments where you're like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Maybe it's to go into the real estate office. Maybe it's to go look at home openings on the weekends, whatever. It's all part of the step of taking action. The law of action has to meet the law of attraction. The law of attraction speaks to like attracts like, but the law of action is the one where you're actually taking the steps so that the universe, you are going, right, we're going to bring this together, and that's how the manifestation is going to come about, as well as releasing the how. Because if we're still constantly going, yeah, but I don't know how this is going to happen, maybe I have to do this, or maybe I have to do that, you're forcing the process and you're not allowing for something really magnificent to drop into your lap and for all the steps for it to come into life. So that's pretty much manifestation, as I like to see it in a nutshell. It does involve doing some work on yourself and uncovering any limiting beliefs around what you want to manifest, as well as taking that inspired action. We can't just sit there and go, I want this, I believe it's coming to me, and it's going to be received. We actually have to do the work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I love that whole inspired action piece. I agree, because that also builds momentum. Solutions or ideas. It's not necessarily the how, but it's the next crumb on the path towards whatever it is.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love that. And it feels good too. But I also feel that the limiting belief sitting under that, and the example of the dream house and another suburb, let's say another socioeconomic, suburb in your area, it is well worth looking into those limiting beliefs, because that's the silent little mouse on the treadmill or tape that gets played over and over. Then often it's played so often that you don't even realize you're playing it. It's
absolutely
this whisper or this subliminal message that until you actually stop and go, hang on a moment, what is my fear of, or if I was to play devil's advocate, sometimes we don't even realize we've got that happening. And when you have a great coach that can reflect that back for you, like yourself, that can help you uncover that, because sometimes you just don't even know you've got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of alignment, that there's something off and there's something holding you back, but you're just not sure what it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if I was to now relate this to this recent story of mine, so how I manifested my biggest speaking gig yet, because it's not the only one, there'll be more. When it actually happened, I was like, wow, I manifested this. And the interesting thing about this manifestation, it wasn't sometimes we can manifest a quick win. Like, I'd love to manifest a cup of coffee. Or, for example, once I lived in Melbourne many years ago, lived my hipster lifestyle in the inner Melbourne suburbs, and decided that I really wanted a knee-high pair of red boots, very specific. Anyway, knew that to buy a pair of leather red boots was going to be a bit costly, and I was a bit on a budget back then. Anyway, rocked up to work, and lo and behold, one of my colleagues just pulled out of her bag a pair of red boots, knee-high boots, and said, I don't want these anymore. They don't fit me. They probably fit you. Do you want them? And I was like, oh, I'd love to have them. Like, they were next to brand new. Like, they fitted me perfectly. I said, do you want me to buy them off you? She's like, no, just have them. I just don't want them anymore. I was like, wow, what a manifestation, right? So we're so good at manifesting, like, somebody to like buy us a cup of coffee, or, something really quick and easy, because our subconscious mind goes, yeah, but that's cool. Like, that's easy. Like, we can accept a cup of coffee without having to go through our limiting beliefs of why we can't accept a cup of coffee. So when it came to the speaking gig years ago, up here in Broome, they held, I think it was one of the first women's leadership forums, and I went, and watched a lot of amazing local and statewide speakers come and talk about various stories about themselves and leadership and success and failures and things like that. And I sat there throughout the whole day, loved all the stories, and I thought to myself, I could do that one day. That could be me. That could literally be me on stage, and I'll have my bowls there. And I went off some crazy little, this is how my mind works. Went into a little crazy moment where I thought of like Sandra Bullock from Miss Congeniality, where she wheeled like that little trolley of singing glasses onto the stage, and she was wearing that like German Oktoberfest outfit. And I thought, yeah, that could be me, just for a bit, a bit of a laugh, bit of bit of a giggle. But anyway, I thought I could do that. I could do my bowls. Like, oh, that would be so amazing. But if at the end of that forum, the organizer had come up to me, if they'd come up to me and said, look, tomorrow we're going to run this whole entire event again, but we've got an opening because one of our speakers can't make it. Do you want to fill it? I would have been like, sure. Not very confident, not very certain. I was quite new to sound bath healings at that time, very new to mindset coaching as well. So even though I probably would have drummed up something, I probably would have not felt my best or my most confident, I would say, quite easily here within doing that. And, I never want to go in half-hearted. I always want to give my best in anything that I do. So thankfully that didn't happen. But, in my mind, I was like, I would love to do this one day. I think one day there'll be a time when I will get up on stage. And lo and behold, I would say it's probably 3 years later, the start of this year, didn't even know about it, got this email come through saying, Anna, we're holding the forum. Would you like to come and do a presentation, bring your bowls, talk about mindset, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, reply, yes, I'm in, I'm your lady, I'm there. And I sat back afterwards and I went, holy moly, I've actually manifested this. I've manifested my opportunity to come and speak and be on stage and do exactly what I was hoping to do 3 years ago, but now I can, because I feel more confident. But here's the thing. I realized that if I looked through those steps of manifestation, the step of how it's all going to happen, I let go. I often came back to this thought of this is what I would like to do regularly. Like I would love to be on stage. Like even last year I saw the lineup for the forum and I didn't go because at the time I was still on maternity leave and just with my younger daughter, it was just not possible. And at the time I was like, yeah, I'd still really like to do that. I still released the how. I didn't get bogged down in it. I didn't think, must happen. And in terms of taking action towards it, I had to have had the experience between then and now of all these other little speaking opportunities, all these other little opportunities to do sound bath healings, all these other little opportunities to do presentations for other coaches or other, days that corporates have, those kind of things. I had to go through all those processes to actually get the confidence and experience so that when I stood in front of like over 200 people, I felt completely fine. I felt like I was in my element. I didn't even use a microphone. I just projected my voice. But I had to have gone through all those things to lead up to this moment in time. Even in there, when we look at like the limiting beliefs, well, I had to gain the confidence. I had to, in this time since from that moment where I was like, yes, I'd like to do this on stage, to being, yes, I'm hitting reply, I'm going to be doing this. In those years, there's been a lot of rewiring over my own self-doubt, imposter syndrome, confidence, you name it. Even my voice, like often I've felt like energetically, I've had something stuck around my voice. So I've gone and done like past life stuff. Whatever, I've had to do a lot of work on myself to get to this point where I feel confident to stand on stage and hold a presentation and know that I'm doing the best job that I could possibly do. That was pretty much a wild, amazing realization that I had manifested this speaking gig. And I know that this is just one of many that will now ripple out effect come into being. I will say this, if I'd really, 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 really wanted to do that speaking gig, sooner rather than just go, yeah, one day this would be nice and push it aside, I could have done more in terms of taking inspired action by perhaps writing to the organizers, soon after the forum or even towards the end of the next year, whenever they were going to organize the next one, and say, hey, I'm here, I'm available. You could ask me if you've got a slot that you think I would be appropriate in, blah, blah, blah. I could have taken action in that to see if that would have, I guess you could say, like sped up the manifestation or just get them to know my presence or whatever it is. So there's those little things in there. But I'll have to say between that time of the first forum and the one now, well, I was pregnant, had a baby, maternity leave, and now here I am. So there's probably very many reasons why it didn't happen until now.
Yes, there is such a thing as timing. And I love a little seed was planted right back then. Tell me, you have to tell me, did you wear your Sandra Bullock
No,
outfit?
I reined it in. I was so tempted, so tempted.
Okay,
Funny
so where's Anna?
I know. I really wish I had. I think the thing I have to realize is that I'm not really meant to be a comedian in real life, and that just talk about what you know and do what you know. People are going to appreciate and love that far more than me trying to crack jokes. I think that was my little realization out of the whole thing. Yeah, but that's how my mind works. I like to have little jokes and things like that.
Fun.
Reference different movies.
Yeah. And it's almost, in the NLP world, it's an anchor. You're marking that moment in time with a visual of an anchor that allows you to then call on that in the future and say, I remember when I had that little mind movie happening and visualizing and having a bit of, playfulness.
A bit of a laugh. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's also part of the manifestation, not getting caught up in the how, is being quite light and playful and open to it arriving when it arrives. That's the beautiful thing about manifesting to the how. We can get caught up in the how with a time limit on it. And if you didn't have a time limit on it, I feel like things arrive. It's not often on your timing. Sometimes it's quicker, like you say, a quick win. Sometimes it's a little bit further. Time, space, that's part of the how, letting go of that too. Letting go of that. And two, if it's not coming, well, definitely, like you say, looking at those other practices that we can do, like past life regression, or I know that you love hypnotherapy, like, hypnosis, or just a really great coach, or if you need some healing, whatever that needs to be. And that's part of the manifestation, is being guided to what you actually need to move forward. That's also part of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said. Yeah, I think this one for me was a great example of, because, we often create these vision boards, right? This is what I want to manifest for the year. And then I don't know if any of your listeners feel the same, but I know I get sometimes look at my board and go, that didn't manifest this year. Like, what's wrong? Like, but in actual fact, it's not meant to come this year, but it's not to say it's not coming. Maybe there's something else that needs to happen in the meantime for it to evolve. So yeah, it was a really good example of like, letting go of the how it's going to happen, and just know that one day I want to get on stage in front of these people and hold a presentation, sharing my knowledge and my wisdom. I will add that I also felt like I wouldn't have been able to deliver the meditation that I did because I didn't know that meditation until that moment in time. Like, there were some things that fell into place leading up to it where I'm like, this is the meditation, like this is what I'm meant to be sharing with them. But I didn't know that until that moment. So, yeah, I feel like it's for me, it was a great example of, this was like a longer manifestation, but it wasn't one that, I didn't need it to happen tomorrow. I didn't need it to happen within that year or the following week or anything. I was happy for it to come when it was meant to come.
You just knew what future Anna looked and felt like.
Yeah. In a Sandra Bullock Oktoberfest outfit, playing my balls.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. But you're right in what you're saying. Like, when we play those visualizations of us in the future, we're already seeing ourselves in that moment in time. You're actually, in some ways, sometimes you are tuning into that actual future moment. Like, I know for a fact that there is a moment where I'm going to be standing on stage in front of hundreds of people, like more than 200. Like, it's an auditorium, it's massive, and it's a black stage. Like, everything's dim in the audience, and there's just that light as you come on stage. And I know that for some reason there's this topic and it says the art of Zen, like, the art of being Zen or the art of whatever. And I'm like, that came to me one day and I was like, well, that must be happening at some stage in the future. I'll just hang on and enjoy the ride until we get there. So, yeah.
And keep honing my craft, getting ready to be ready for the art of Zen.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And this whole event, there was a few moments where afterwards I was like, cringe-worthy, Anna, my God, what were you thinking? But it's all learning. And if I hadn't had the experiences leading up to this moment probably would have flopped well and truly, like, bad moment. But it didn't. And yes, there's things that I've learned from it, and that's okay. but it's one step leading me to this bigger presentation of the art of Zen, whatever that's going to be. But yeah.
And I'm also guessing here, Anna, that even though you got off that stage and said this time, oh gosh, you critique yourself, but I am positively sure that so many people come up to you and said, Anna, that was amazing.
They did. Yeah.
Yes, even though you get off and we do that critiquing of ourselves, and a little bit of that is very helpful, but as long as it's not the extreme, I think that's just natural, just to critique ourselves and say, oh goodness, I've had times where, I've presented, I thought, oh goodness, I left out that piece. Next time I just need to probably have little notes beside me or whatever it might be. So that's sometimes a little bit helpful, the critiquing, but then receiving the validation and receiving the gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing that at the end of the day, regardless to any slip-ups I had or cringy moments, people really benefited from it. Like if I looked around the room as I was doing my sound bath, people were relaxed. People were like, had their eyes closed. They're having a little moment for themselves. And that was all I needed to do. That was my job done. That was my job done. And to have the people come up to me afterwards and even like weeks after and said, oh, I loved yours, or heard from somebody else around town, or so-and-so went to the event and they really enjoyed your presentation. They loved your sound bath. My job is done, right? That's what I was there to do. So I think you're right, when we come out of those moments, we can often be so critical of ourselves and can be constructive. It is, for me, it's been constructive. But at the end of the day, people received what they needed to receive. They felt relaxed. They felt rested. They felt like their energy had been, restored, and they enjoyed it. And for some of them, they've never experienced anything like this, which is great. What an amazing gift to share something like this to a bunch of women, some who do come to sound baths regularly, some who have never been to one before, but they've all had that opportunity to experience it.
Yeah. And when it is so helpful, like you say, even if someone was, let's say, not open to it, you can't deny that when you're in a sound bath experience or having a moment to take some breaths, that there's just not some benefit from that.
Yeah, I agree.
It is so helpful in our busy little world, and we're so connected to devices. Any little bit of reprieve is a gift.
100%. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, your work is done. It's wonderful. So, Anna, thinking about, for any of our listeners, back to our topic of spirituality and having a life and a business you love, if you were to give one piece of advice or a practice or a tool, what would you share with our listeners that can help them in this manifesting process, particularly when they get to the part where potentially they are noticing that there are some limiting beliefs that are stopping them from the example of the dream house, or the example of, the thought of not even feeling like they can say yes to a speaking event when the email comes through because there's limiting beliefs. What would you suggest is a great way for them to start to uncover their limiting beliefs to move them forward?
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the easiest things to do is come back to, visualization, and everybody has a different way of visualizing. So, imagine, have that sensory awareness, see yourself in that moment and go full sensory with your thoughts, your feelings, like your emotional feelings. Go with like what you're hearing around you, what you're hearing you're saying. What are you seeing? Like, be visual. Like, what are you seeing through your own eyes? What are you, maybe even if you're seeing yourself on a TV screen, like, what are you seeing back? Go full sensory, because it's easy. And that's a form of daydreaming, right? It's a form of daydreaming. And I think daydreaming needs to make a comeback because it's part of manifestation, right? Yeah. I see you, Emma, nodding your head. Yes. We need to daydream, right? We need to daydream, and we've been told not to daydream, but in actual fact, daydreaming is being part of manifestation, because you take yourself to a time and place where something is happening that you deeply want and desire. So for me personally, like, don't get me wrong, I was really nervous to actually stand up as well and talk at that speaking opportunity. But because I'd put myself so many times out there in that moment in time, I'd already put my, like, you could say, my energy or my essence or what was to unfold in that room already ahead of time. I'd already seen myself. I'd already practiced in my mind where I would stand, what I would do, how I would dress, how I would look. The other thing that's really helpful, along with the visualization process, not only in that moment in time of you doing that thing, but also going to moments when it's finished even like a couple of hours or even like whatever it is, whenever you've received it, but moments afterwards, what are you doing in that moment? Now, this is a really cool thing I recently learned, and it was go to the time when you've done it. So for example, like a really, really, really easy example, if you've got like a really busy day ahead of you, you know, you've got a lot to do, your time is going to be really tight because you've got appointments, you've got to pick up kids, you've got to make dinner, you've got to do everything. It's one of those really hectic days, right? Since from the time you wake up, take yourself to the moment where you're at the end of the day. And it may be like where you're sinking into your bed in your PJs, you're about to like turn the light off, whatever it is, your last final ritual or thing you do before you shut your eyes, and just be in that moment of like, oh, wow, what an incredible day. And I feel so lucky now to be able to lie in my bed, pull the covers over, turn off the light, you know, go sensory again. What does it feel like to have your PJs on or your favorite nightwear, the blankets over you, see your room, if you've had like a herbal tea or something, whatever you've done as your nighttime ritual, you know, be in that moment and the reflection of, I'm at that point at the end of my day, and see how your day works from there. Because that is I feel like a really powerful way of already putting yourself through those motions in that day. So your energy is already set throughout that day to greet you at the end of the day, if that makes sense. So that I feel like is a really great one to do, because we're constantly telling our mind, our subconscious mind, this is how it is. This is how I'm going to feel in this moment. It's okay and I'm safe to do this. There is nothing going to harm me or be in my way. I'm okay. I'm enjoying this. And all that information comes into our subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind takes it on board and goes, well, if that's how she's feeling, amazing, then that must be real. So we're going to look for more of those things. That I would say would probably be the easiest self-help kind of process, apart from maybe being guided through a coach or, you know, using some sort of tool or technique you've learned from a course that can help do deeper mindset rewiring.
That's a great day-to-day one. I really love that, Anna. That's brilliant. And even when you're talking through that, about that end of day, you're in bed, the ritual and that sense of whether it be pride, relief. But for me, I was, as you're talking through that self-belief, even though I've got all of these things on my plate and I have got a lot to do, I believe in myself and I trust myself. And you said the word safe, and it's safe for me to do this. And I still arrive in bed feeling gratitude, gratification, appreciation. Like what, because the opposite is, I'm overwhelmed. There's not enough hours in the day. You can run two different stories here, but the futuring one is a beautiful one, visualizing yourself at the end of the day with, and like you say, full sensory, because I think that's also a key to this. And whether you alluded to it before around your own spirituality, and you said like you're more that clairvoyant where you'll see it, and everyone is clair something, whether it be
absolutely
clairsentient, you feel the energy, clairauditory, you actually hear it, whatever that is. So leaning into yours, but running all of those different senses, how that feels. That is the full immersion of it.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Because you're right. And some people, that's why when I do a meditation, I'll always say, have that sensor awareness or visualize, because some people don't visualize the same way that I do, you know. Maybe it's just tuning into how you recall a memory. So if I said to you, what did you have for dinner last night? How do you recall that memory? That's how you, let's say, inverted commas, visualize. But, you know, some people they may see themselves, some may feel the feelings, like the sensation of the fabric, or, you know, even if you're like, it's the end of the day and you're sitting on the couch and you're about to put your feet up and have a herbal tea, or, you know, little meditate or whatever it is, you know, you feel the feelings of what it is to sit or to have those physical things around you, as well as the emotions around it. What are you hearing? And then what are you sort of like, you could say visually seeing, even what are you tasting or smelling? Like maybe you're the kind of person who loves to put incense on, or, you know, your essential oil diffuser or something like that. What are you sensing? Because we all have really, some senses are more powerful than others, which is, I think, what you were saying there, Emma. So, when you go future self, go full sensory, go through the senses that really appeal to you, because that's your strength in terms of bringing your energy through into that moment in time.
Yeah. And that is the definition, Anna. If we were to say mindset, working on mindset, that's the example of the mindset work, because that is a mindset, whether how we arrive at the end of the day is obviously very influenced by your belief system and your mindset. And we get to take our power back around that. And we've all heard it 100 times. You can't necessarily control what's happening outside of yourself, but you can control how you feel about it. And there are going to be days that are tougher than others, and there are going to be, life is going to smack us on the ass from time to time. But we do have a choice too.
Yes, absolutely.
We do have a choice, and that's the practice. That's the practice in those little micro moments. So then we do get to that place where we are living in our dream home and we are standing on stages, or we are whatever that thing is for you. But it's all that, it's almost like running the marathon or going to the big race, but having trained each day. And this is the training.
Absolutely. And then when we do this often enough and we see the results often enough, again, our subconscious mind goes, well, this is the way it is, right? And you're creating and you're strengthening that belief that whatever it is possible for you, that you can have this thing, that it can all work out, etc. So, it's not when it, sometimes I think there are some mindset practices that aren't those like really quick wins and shifts. There's some that has to be that gradual, development over time, like practice, but that's how we're wired as human beings. We need to be able to do things on repeat to learn that that's okay for us to do, and not have it in that instant moment. Sometimes that just doesn't happen. Because
not many things in life really do happen overnight. Those quick wins, they're wonderful when they happen, but they don't often. So it is the day-to-day having, it's healthy habits.
Absolutely.
Habits is the key.
Absolutely.
And it's been such a wonderful conversation. I love this, talking about manifestation. Thank you for taking everyone through those little steps and thinking through that. And I guess my takeaway chatting to you is reminding me that, yes, letting go of the how of manifesting, but being very, very aware when that limiting belief is stopping me. Example, the dream house. What really is the belief there? What is the belief that I need to unhook to allow me to shift and move a little bit closer to that? Brilliant. Great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I hope your listeners find those steps really beneficial. And I'd love to hear how they go, or anything at the above, share with you how they're going with their manifestations and how those steps are.
I'm going to pop in the show notes a link to your podcast.
Thank you.
I'm also going to pop in there. I know that you have some fabulous meditations available that people can access and purchase. And then have you got anything else coming up, anything online, or have you got anything else coming up that you wanted to share with the community off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, I've only got a lot of in-person events. So if you're traveling to Broome, please come and say hi. I'd love to have you at one of my sound baths. But if you do want to experience one of my sound bath healings, I do have some free ones available. So I'll also include the links there for you to tap into a free online sound bath to add to your library of health and well-being whenever you need it.
Yeah, fabulous. And follow, I'll put your Instagram link there too, Anna.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Anna, and I can't wait to talk again.
Yes, absolutely, Emma. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thanks. Have you checked out my latest creation? Yes, I am a published author. I've written a book, 365 Days of Morning Magic, Manifest a Life You Love with Clarity, Calm and Joy. This little book is a daily guide that helps you set your intentions. I also invite you to join my free group, 21 Minutes of Morning Magic on Facebook, where I gather regularly with you all and we go through a beautiful little process of yoga, some flowetry, setting an intention for the day. So if you'd love to be part of that, click the link below and I hope you enjoy this beautiful little book.